who is a maths lead at primary school, and she'll be doing a presentation on advice that she would have given to her younger self and advice in hindsight. So please, like, as she goes along, add any questions in the chat, just so you don't forget, and she'll answer them in the end. So over to Feben.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I just wanted to say how wonderful it is to see sort of the future generation all come together today in one place. So it's truly wonderful. So I just want to thank FNAN as a whole for providing this platform. And I wish I had this sort of kind of ability to connect with people and to kind of get advice, like Simon was giving lots of advice there that I could definitely relate to. So it would have been great for something like this to have been set up when I was studying at university as well. But when I was first asked to talk today, I had to think about what I would possibly have said to myself, knowing what I know today. If I were to go back, what would I have said to myself in hindsight? So I've kind of just put together, as Hermela said, a PowerPoint presentation of all the things that I would have perhaps said to myself at the time I was starting university or studying in my second or third year as well. So hopefully you'll find some of it useful. Simon has already touched on some of the things that I will be talking about, so it will be interesting to compare and contrast, because I stayed at home when I was studying university, and I didn't get to sort of learn the life experiences that perhaps Simon has had. So I'll try and share my presentation with you. Hopefully I've got permission to do that. Okay, hopefully you're all able to see this. Okay, so when I was going to university, I was actually the first person in my immediate family to go to university in the UK. So I didn't really have anyone to sort of get that kind of advice from, first-hand experience advice from, so to speak. And I definitely didn't have a mentor. So I kind of felt like I had to figure things out myself. So these are some of the things, as I said, that I would have probably said to myself if I was able to kind of go back. So the very first thing is probably to be aware of all the resources that are available to myself or to you as people who are starting college or university or starting a new job. It's really great to sort of familiarize yourself with everything that's available to you, because the chances are there's probably lots of things available, whether it's online or people that you can speak to around your university or college. So for me personally, just thinking back, I remember that in my third year, I had to do my final dissertation, and the topic that I had chosen to write about was not very well researched at the time. So I found myself finding it really difficult to find information and journals about the topic that I was supposed to be writing about. So that meant that I was falling behind. But instead of approaching my tutor and making time to speak to him, I was actually too afraid and too shy and embarrassed of the fact that I was falling behind. So I didn't do that. I avoided that as much as possible. But it's really important to remember that tutors and teachers and so on are there to help you. That's their job. And when I did finally, after some time of convincing myself, when I did make time to meet my tutor, he was actually able to give me some really, really good advice that I needed at the time. And I remember him saying that I had the option of changing my topic completely. So I didn't have to be stuck and falling behind. I can change my topic. And that's exactly what I did. I changed my topic, and then I was able to find research that I needed to write my dissertation. So sometimes it can be a simple thing that for you might not be aware of. That's why you've got to kind of ask for help. And actually asking for help and reaching out and accessing those resources is not a weakness. In fact, it's a strength, because you know how to help yourself. So that's something perhaps I wasn't aware of at the start, and I saw it as a weakness. But now, thinking in hindsight, I definitely needed to do that, you know, right from the beginning probably. And it's really also important to get to know all the other things that are available, like student unions that you can join, study clubs if you prefer to study with other people. For me personally, I like to study independently. So it was all about kind of familiarizing myself with the library and the opening hours and so on, and you really using that time and space wisely. And also online resources. I don't think I made much use of online resources at the time, especially if it was, if I were at uni now. There are so many different resources for free that you can access. Like, I know the other day someone in the FNAN team posted some free books that you can access online, and I just thought, how useful would that have been when I was at university to actually have access to all these books and actually they're for free as well. So it's about, as I said, knowing what's available to you first of all before you even get started to do anything else. And then this is something that I'm still working on. So some of these points that I'm talking about are things that I would have said to myself, but some of them will still be something that I'm still continuing to work on. And it's avoiding procrastination and delaying things. And I find myself often saying, you know what, I'll do that tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. So it's about prioritizing, and like Simon was saying, making sure that you manage your time well and structure your time so that you're in control. So really thinking about making sure that you're not overwhelmed by distractions all around you, because distractions are always going to be there. So finding out and being self-aware, what is it that's distracting you? What's stopping you from doing what you really want to be doing and what's important to you? And then doing things and putting things in place, whether it's the calendar, like Simon was saying, or other things to help you not get distracted and not delay from doing things. Something that I came across very recently, which is quite interesting, but someone on YouTube was sharing their experience. I think she was talking about different distractions, and she talked about this box that is, I think it's a kitchen timer, and the person was getting, using their phone quite a lot, and they wanted to put their phone away. So you could get something like that. I mean, that's kind of seems a bit extreme to me, but that is an option where you can put your phone away if that's what's distracting you. Set the timer up for half an hour or an hour, however long you want to. Make sure that you're not touching your phone. And then you lock it in there and you get on with everything that you need to get on with, and then you've got access to your phone or anything that's distracting you. So you can find things that work for you. Another thing I would have perhaps said to myself is to take advantage of social media. I graduated in 2006, so I wasn't really using Facebook. I don't even know if it was around. I was using something called High Five, which seems like ages ago now. But today I use Facebook not only to connect with my friends and to chat with other people and so on, but actually I use it for work purposes. So being a teacher working in a primary school, things are changing all the time. So I'm part of lots of different groups of teachers and people who sort of inspire me and post different things that I need to keep updated on. So social media is great if you use it the right way. So make sure you're taking advantage of that as well. And part of the reason why I felt I was sort of delaying things and not dealing with things straight away and procrastinating is probably because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Now that can be a good thing, but it can also be something that kind of hinders you and stops you from getting on with things straight away. So for me personally, I've come to kind of accept the idea of making mistakes, and that's really important because we make mistakes and not everything is going to be perfect the first time round, but you've got to take that first step. So I'm now just doing things straight away, or trying to do things straight away, and then improving them. So for example, if you're writing a report, it's best to just take the first step, write your first draft, and then work on it, rather than delaying it, hoping that the first thing that you write is going to be the final kind of product. So really accepting that fact that you've got to be willing to make mistakes and learn from your mistakes as well. It's also probably really important to think about why it is that you might be procrastinating and delaying things. It's not necessarily just laziness, although that's what I used to think, but you might want to get to the root of it and really think, okay, why am I doing that? Is it because, like for me, perfectionism? Is it because I want it to be really perfect the first time round? Is it fear of getting things wrong? Or it could even be things like not knowing where to start, feeling overwhelmed, or just not having an idea of where to begin, what to begin with. So in that case, you might need to go back to your resources, as I said previously, and kind of look at what's available to you, or really kind of think about empowering yourself and giving yourself that confidence to make mistakes and to face what's kind of the barriers that you might be feeling are stopping you from the things that you want to do. And then this is probably a big one in hindsight for myself. I know that Simon touched on this as well, but for me, I was living at home with my parents, and to be honest, I didn't really need, I didn't need a lot of money. I took out a loan, a student loan, which I would have probably needed for things like transport, buying books, my everyday expenses and so on, but I wasn't paying rent. I didn't really need to take the maximum that was available to me. Unfortunately, that is what I did. I took the maximum that was available to me, and I felt the richest I've ever felt until that point, because I didn't have a job or anything else before uni, and I just suddenly felt I had lots of money in my bank account to sort of spend. And my university was in Regent Street, so I was only 5 minutes away from all the shops in Oxford Street. So my friend and I used to just go to Oxford Street, all the shops, and buy clothes and things that we didn't necessarily need. And I found myself spending a lot of my money, not necessarily my money, I had to remember that it was borrowed money, but at the time it felt like my money, so I ended up spending quite a lot of it on things like that. So in hindsight, I wish that I had spent my loan on, things that I really needed, perhaps even learning to drive a car, and driving lessons. That would have been much more useful for me for the future. So it's about using your loan wisely and remembering that actually once you start working, you're going to have to pay that loan back. So it's not necessarily your money, so to speak. And also a part of it is appreciating and learning the value of money as well. For me, because I didn't earn it, it didn't really mean much to me. That quickly changed after university. When I started my first job, I was able to appreciate money. I was able to start saving. So if you can do that way before you start your job with your loan, that will kind of put you at an advantage already. Also, budgeting is really great, and being aware of your expenses, as was already mentioned. There are lots of free templates online that if you just Google budgeting, Excel templates, you can find lots that are available to you. You can even make one yourself. But I think that would have probably benefited me quite a lot. And then this one, that learning never stops. So for me, graduating and going to university was actually my dream. It's something that I really wanted to do from when I was very young. But if I'm really honest, I think it was probably because of my parents, because they instilled the fact that, education is really, really important. I don't know if I completely valued it at the time myself, even though it was something that I was sort of dreaming about and hoping to do and doing. But as soon as I graduated, one of the very first things I said to my parents and my siblings is that's it. I'm never setting foot in a classroom ever again. I'm done with all the studying. I felt like I got to the final kind of hurdle and graduated, and that was the end of learning for me. But little did I know that I was going to become a class teacher, and I would be going into class every single day. Not necessarily learning as a student myself, but teaching others. But that didn't mean that the learning has stopped for me. I still had to continue learning, all the time, being informed, going to training, going back to uni and learning some more things. So learning actually never stops just because you get to the end of college or you get to the end of university. It's about keeping up to date and really kind of seeking those opportunities to learn new things and making yourself stand out by continuing to learn. And at the moment, I know that there are lots of free online courses. So do take advantage of that, because it's absolutely brilliant what you have access to right now. And not being afraid to ask questions. because that's how you learn. So when I first started working at the school that I'm working at the moment, I wasn't quite sure of some things. I was asking lots and lots of questions, because by that time I understood that asking questions was not a weakness, and in fact it's a strength, and we can learn so much from other people and other people's experiences. So that was definitely something that I realized towards the end. Another thing that I would have said to myself is probably to believe in myself a lot more than I did, and to come out of my comfort zone as much as I can as well, because I found myself saying no quite a lot. So if someone was to offer me an opportunity to do something that I wasn't quite confident at doing or quite comfortable doing, I just said no immediately and just said, oh, that's not me, or that's not for me, or I don't think I'm going to be good at that. But actually now I've learned, especially this year, instead of saying no straight away, I've learned to sort of say, why not? So I have that inner conversation with myself to really think, why not? I think I can do this, or at least I'm going to give it a go and try my very best. So it's really good to have that mindset that you can do whatever you set your mind to. It might just take a bit of practice, it might take a bit of training, talking to people, but you can definitely equip yourself and get yourself to do whatever it is that you have in mind. So instead of waiting for opportunities to come up, now I try to seek opportunities as much as I can, and to pay attention to people around me. And that's definitely something that I would have said to my younger self, because thinking back, I was very lucky to have people around me who actually probably believed in me a lot more than I believed in myself. And I came across lots of people who felt that, I could do better and so on, who pushed me. So I was really lucky to have that, whether it's family members or people at work or in other parts of my life. So look out for those people who are there to help you and push you, and you can sort of use that energy to push yourself as well. And that kind of links to my current position at school as a leader of learning. I remember when I was a class teacher, I just about could handle standing in front of the whole class and talking to the class of children. But the thing that I didn't want to do is come out of my comfort zone and actually stand up in front of teachers and parents and trained teachers and so on. I didn't feel that I had the confidence to do that, but luckily I did go for the job, and now I feel like I'm able to do that. It just takes, as I said, quite a bit of practice to get there, and believing in yourself as well. So you might have seen this before. It's just about the comfort zone, and not just staying in that comfort zone and the fear zone where you're making excuses and you're saying, no, that's not me, I don't think I can do that, and having that lack of confidence, because then you won't be able to progress into the learning zone, into acquiring new skills and growing, because that's where you're going to be able to live your dream and achieve your goals. So really thinking about pushing yourself and getting to the growth zone is probably something that we all need to work on and remember. Recognizing the importance of work experience is a big one for me, or was a big one for me at the time. I remember even after I graduated, my younger sister told me that she decided to take a gap year, and she wanted to have a bit of experience and get to know herself a little bit more, and exactly what she wanted to do when she gets to uni. So she didn't want to go from college straight to university. So she took that gap year. But when she first told me that that's what she was going to be doing, I was absolutely mortified, because I was so worried that she might not go back to university. And I don't think I valued what she could achieve in her gap year, or how important work experience would be. And so now I know that actually she was able to use that time to know exactly what she wanted to do. She was lucky enough to go to Italy for 3 weeks and gain that work experience. But I had in my head the traditional sort of path into university. But we just need to remember that everyone is different. And just because someone else might be going straight into university, but you want to take a gap year, as long as you use your gap year really wisely and gain the experience that you want to gain, it can be really beneficial. My sister then went back to university and was able even to get a first in her degree, and now she has a job that she absolutely loves. So it can be a great thing, and I've come to realize that now as well. As Simon mentioned, I also had work experience when I was at university. It wasn't quite the whole year, but I was able to choose a module whereby we were able to choose a workplace experience, and what I chose was to work with a child with autism. And luckily that opened quite a lot of doors for me, because it's because of that experience that I'm in my current position now. Because working with that child in the school, then from working as a learning support assistant, I was then able to work in the same school as a class teacher after going back to university, and then I was able to move on to my current position. So work experience definitely opens lots of doors for you, and it also kind of makes you stand out. Once you leave university, you want to stand out from everyone else and show that everything that you've learned at university or college, you were able to kind of put in place and see it practically as well and learn from it. So volunteering might be one way of doing it, whether it's volunteering in your own field to gain the experience and the insight into that field, or even volunteering in a different field, because you can use some of those skills that you learn in a different field in the field that you're interested in, because they can be transferable skills. And also, just to say, don't worry if you're not quite sure what you want to do yet. I remember not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, but life has a funny way of working itself out sometimes. And when you get that experience, work experience and so on, and you get to know yourself a bit more, things will become a bit clearer. So it doesn't matter if everyone else around you seems to be really confident and really know exactly where they want to end up. If you're unsure, it's just about doing things to help yourself to get to the point where you know what you want to do. And I think finally, I'd probably say to myself not to be afraid of obstacles, because obstacles and hardship and challenges are, something that's part of life. So it's just important to be resilient and to keep on going, finding different ways of solving problems and overcoming the challenges that you might face. And for me, it's about holding on to something that will help you to sort of get through that period where you're struggling at school, or it can be in your own personal life, and really kind of having the confidence in yourself to say to yourself, I can handle whatever's thrown at me. I just need to take small steps and not be overwhelmed by the whole thing. So there are ways around things as well. So it's just really important to maybe think about this quote, that difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations. So make sure that you're resilient and that you're not quitting and keep going. Perhaps it's also important to reflect after you've managed to overcome the hardship and really think, what is it that I've learned from this, to help you to access that knowledge next time if you face a similar situation or challenge. Then being a teacher, I guess I couldn't help but set homework for everyone. If you have a bit of time, just consider writing a letter to yourself, but instead of doing it the same way that I did it. So I did it as writing a letter from myself, or talking to myself from now to myself when I was a lot younger. You could do it in a slightly different way. So you might want to sort of envision yourself in the future. Envision yourself perhaps maybe 5 years from now, living the life that you want to live, with all the personality traits that you want to have, just living your dream. Think about what it is that you want to push yourself to achieve. And then that future self, who has accomplished all the things that you want to achieve, could write a letter to yourself today. So perhaps you have a few, negative thoughts, perhaps you're lacking in confidence, perhaps you have some worries or concerns. So address them directly from your future self, because you need to manifest that and think about what it is your future self has, or how is your future self thinking that you perhaps don't have today. And perhaps that could be something that you could read whenever you come across something that's quite challenging for yourself, or just to keep inspiring and motivating yourself. So I'm just going to leave you with this quote I came across quite recently. It says, "The man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both right." So it's about, if you think that you can achieve something, you'll probably end up doing it. You'll probably end up achieving it because you believed in yourself. But if you think, oh, I don't think I can do it, the likelihood is if you're going to have that mindset, you probably won't be able to achieve what it is that you had in mind. So think about what would help you to achieve your dreams. So thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best of luck in wherever your journey takes you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Feben. That was a really, really good presentation. And as a visual learner as well, it was really helpful to see all the charts and techniques. So does anyone have any questions that they want to ask? I'll give you a couple minutes to type anything in the chat.
Thank you, everyone. I think there's a question from Ruth. Yeah, I think I find myself thinking a lot more positively now. And, you know, it's natural to have those thoughts sometimes where you think, oh, actually, would I be able to do it? Would I not be able to do it? But yeah, I find myself being able to kind of say things to myself that would motivate me to overcome those initial thoughts, first of all, and then putting them into action. And I know that if I do have a go at something and I'm not able to do it well, I know that it's absolutely okay and I can learn from it. Although it might not feel good at the time, it's just about pushing yourself and coming out of your comfort zone. And the more you do the thing that it is that you feel that you might not be able to do very well, you'll find actually with practice, you'll feel a bit more confident doing it. Like for me, I remember really not liking to, standing up in front of parents and talking to them about different things that we're doing at school with maths and teaching them about how we're teaching their kids. But now it's my favorite thing to do. I absolutely love it. So it's just overcoming that initial hurdle. Yeah.
Any more questions that anyone would like to ask before we move on to the next speaker?
The way I see comfort zone is just kind of feeling comfortable in what you're used to doing, probably something that you're used to doing all the time, and really not challenging yourself and probably not fulfilling your potential. So it's just about, if I'm thinking about my children at school, for example, if they're going for just the easy questions, then they're feeling comfortable because they're getting it right all the time and that's what they're happy with. But actually they could be capable of a lot more. So it's about saying, okay, this I find really easy. What is it that I can challenge myself to doing? And they'll probably find that they're capable of a lot more. So it's about empowering yourself, having those positive conversations with yourself to really encourage yourself, believe in yourself. And I know that the first time I heard Luwam speaking, she talked about limiting beliefs, and it resonated so much with me that I ended up crying. I remember when she first talked. So I'm so glad that I'm not going after you today, to Luwam, because it is something that we all tend to doubt ourselves at times, but actually if we know how to overcome that, then we'll be able to come out of a comfort zone and have a go at different things. And we're not going to be great at doing everything, that's absolutely impossible, but why not give it a go? Whatever it is, just come out of your comfort zone. Oh, that's quite a tricky question. What's been the hardest hurdle for me to overcome? Quite a few things, but I think maybe like right at the beginning of when I was at university, as I said, I had the work experience working with a child with autism, and I was trained under a program called Sunrise Program, but I was working with him at home. And he was quite severe at the time, but then his mum offered me the job of working with him in classroom. So I was supporting him one-to-one. And it was only part-time to begin with, but I remember him being quite aggressive at the time. And, you know, it wasn't hard, but he used to sort of be a little bit aggressive. And that really put me off. And that's the first time I questioned my role and my job. And I felt, I was thinking to myself, will I be able to do this? Do I want to do this? But when I thought about it, it's about taking a step back, not taking things personally. And I think we can kind of apply that to different parts of our life sometimes, because not everything is personal. And once I understood that that wasn't a personal thing, he was just frustrated, he just needed a way of communicating, then I was able to find ways to kind of overcome that hurdle. But there are lots that you might even find yourself kind of in your personal life, perhaps overcoming lots of hurdles as well. But that's one example that kind of comes to mind when I'm thinking about when I first started the job.
I've got a question actually. Did you do education at university, or did you start off with something else?
So yeah, I started off with something else. So initially so my degree is in psychology. And when I think back, the real reason, if you all remember Big Brother, that's the reason why I chose psychology. And it seems quite funny to me now because it's really strange, a reality show. But every Sunday they used to analyze the people's behavior and kind of talk about the psychology. And that's when I realized that that's why I enjoyed kind of learning about and finding out a bit more. My degree in reality was slightly different, but I still enjoyed it. But I did psychology, and then after that, because of my work experience, as I said, and working with the child, and then when I decided to become a teacher, a class teacher, I then had to go back to university to do a postgraduate certificate for 1 year, and that was a GTP, which meant that it's a graduate training program. I think that's what it was called, and it's training on the job. So I used to go to university on Monday, and the rest of the days I was at the school that I was supposed to be working at. And so I got first-hand experience to kind of put the theory in practice. So that was really useful for me. And then after that 1 year of, the education, sort of postgraduate education, I was able to then qualify as a class teacher and then work as a class teacher. So it wasn't the first thing because I didn't know what I wanted to be to begin with.
Okay, thanks so much. I think if anyone has any more questions for Feben, keep just putting it in the chat and we can answer them in the end.